Hello, this is Eastern Europe Review, a joint production of Belsat and TVP World with the reports and analysis from Ukraine, Belarus and Russia. My name is Alexandra Shapalina and these are the main stories. Russian propaganda is outraged by Lukashenko, whose symbolic friendly gesture towards the West goes against the Russian hostile policy.
Lukashenko has elections next year. Perhaps he's starting to feel threatened by Russia.
Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya and a key ally of Putin, has been implicated in the racketeering involving one of Russia's largest businesses.
This story looks as if Kadyrov was promised some part of the profit.
Despite the war in their country, Ukrainian athletes have prepared for the Olympics.
I want the war in Ukraine to end and everyone to know we are a strong nation.
Following the mass protests of 2020, Lukashenko's reliance on Putin became so intense that jokes about the Belarusian dictator's attempts to sit on two chairs seemed irrelevant. However, in recent weeks, Lukashenko's pacifist rhetoric towards the West and Ukraine has sparked outrage from Russian propaganda. Is Minsk truly trying to distance itself from Russia?
Belarusians have observed that dictator Lukashenko is allegedly trying to maneuver between Russia and the West. Initially, the regime opened a visa-free entry to 35 additional European countries, all of which are considered unfriendly by Russia and Belarus.
My first thought when I heard about it was that it's all about money. The more people come and leave euros, dollars, or any other currency in Belarus, the better it'll be.
However, this move has not been well received abroad. On July the 21st, a German citizen, Rico Krieger, became the first foreign national to be sentenced to death in Belarus. Krieger was accused of planning a terrorist act on Belarusian territory. It is speculated that he might be exchanged for Russian FSB agent Vadim Krasikov, who is serving a life sentence in Germany for the murder of a former Chechen field commander. That is why visa-free travel for Europeans appears to be an attempt to attract new hostages. After that, Lukashenko ordered the withdrawal of troops from the southern borders to their permanent deployment locations and announced the elimination of tension on the border with Ukraine.
We don't have any complications with the Ukrainians now, and I hope there won't be any.
After the announcement of the troop withdrawal from the border with Ukraine, Russian propaganda accused the Lukashenko regime of treason and lack of loyalty. Meanwhile, Minsk declared its readiness for dialogue with Poland. There were fewer illegal immigrants at the border at that time, and about 24 political prisoners were released from prisons.
Lukashenko's regime was afraid of something, so they started to react to the sanctions imposed by Poland. But there's no reason to trust him. Lukashenko has elections next year. Perhaps he's starting to feel threatened by Russia.
The softening of Lukashenko's rhetoric occurred after Polish President Andrzej Duda had visited China and announced the potential closure of trade traffic for Chinese goods on the Polish-Belarusian border. However, Minsk is not taking any concrete steps toward a dialogue with Poland. Warsaw has outlined its conditions: the complete end of the migrant crisis at the Belarusian-Polish border, the release of political prisoners, particularly journalist Andrzej Poczobut, and the extradition of the killer of a Polish soldier at the border, who is believed to be one of the illegal migrants used by Minsk and Moscow to attack the Polish border.
A certain degree of independence is maintained by Lukashenko, but in terms of military diplomatic maneuvers and some demonstrative steps, I believe he is largely aligned with the Russian Federation.
Is this why Lukashenko traveled to Russia this week to meet with Vladimir Putin? Although Putin listens to China and is reluctant to oppose Beijing's interests, Lukashenko's visit is noteworthy. Meanwhile, Belarusian Foreign Minister Maxim Ryzhenko visited North Korea, where he agreed to strengthen cooperation between the two countries. despite making overtures toward the West. Repression in Belarus continues daily, with new cases emerging even as political prisoners are released. It seems unlikely that Minsk will break away from Russia in the near future.
The head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, is involved in the scandal surrounding Russia's largest marketplace. The company's two owners, who are also married, are going through a divorce. The husband has approached Kadyrov for assistance in taking control of the company, which is valued at over $7 billion.
A corporate raid is taking place at Wildberries, a Russian marketplace that ranks second among the largest Russian companies after Yandex, and it's worth over $7 billion. Vladislav Bakalchuk, one of the company's founders, has filed a complaint with the head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov. The man claims that his wife, the CEO of Wildberries, has contacted a shady company and is trying to take over the family business.
Things aren't going well for us. My wife's left home and got involved with an unknown company, which under the guise of a merger is seizing control of the business and taking away assets.
In addition, according to Bakalchuk, the alleged raiders are not only trying to take over the marketplace, but are also practically holding Tatiana hostage.
The raiders have kept Vladislav's wife, Tatiana, away from him and their 7 children. The spouses are unable to see each other or communicate, even to discuss the situation.
Ramzan Kadyrov promised to personally handle the case. He stated that the issue would be handled by State Duma deputy Adam Delimkhanov.
This story looks as if Kadyrov was promised some part of the profit. He will act as a raider in order to take control of the business on behalf of Bakalchuk's husband, who approached him. Kadyrov's interest seems to be purely predatory and commercial, rather than a genuine attempt to reconcile the spouses.
Abubakar Yangulbayev said that Tatiana Balchuk might now be in danger. It is possible that Tatiana's husband turned to Kadyrov to put pressure on his wife.
This is what Kadyrov does and what he's famous for. This is where his money comes from, all these fabulous riches. These are not just subsidies. Subsidies from the federal center are one part, and the other part is this activity, when Kadyrov, through Deputy Delimkhanov, can seize any business for himself. Deputy Delimkhanov, sitting in the presidential hotel in Moscow, is engaged in open racketeering.
The merger that Vladislav Bakalchuk found troublesome involves the integration of Wildberries with Russia's largest outdoor advertising operator, Rus Outdoor. The founder and CEO of Wildberries, Tatiana Bakalchuk, joined the discussion herself. She stated that what is happening is not a raider takeover, but rather a divorce.
I'm fine. I'm alive and well. As you can see, I'm not a hostage or a Caucasian captive. I'm not hiding from anyone and I'm not hiding anything. The deal has been fully approved and supported, and there's no need to rescue me from anyone. I don't know why Vladislav is misleading people or why this unclear story about a supposed raid was created. I'm very sorry that Vladislav chose to make our family's difficulties public. While I believe personal matters should remain private, I do confirm that the divorce proceedings have begun.
According to the businesswoman, her husband was involved in the negotiations from the start and was aware of all the merger terms. Tatiana assures that her husband's public statements are connected to their ongoing divorce proceedings. Even the Kremlin has taken notice of the conflict between the Bakalchuk spouses. Russian media report that Putin personally approved the merger of Wildberries and Rus Outdoor with a meeting between the Russian president and Tatiana Bakalchuk, reportedly arranged by billionaire Suleiman Karimov, who may be the real beneficiary of the deal. Meanwhile, Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov stated that the situation is beyond the competence of the Russian president and that he will not be involved in it.
140 athletes will be representing Ukraine at the Olympic Games in Paris. About 36 athletes from Russia and Belarus have arrived in France to compete under a neutral flag. Our story today provides more details on how Ukrainian athletes have prepared for the Games and whether they will encounter competitors from Russia and Belarus.
This is how the Ukrainian boxing team was seen off at Kyiv railway station before their departure to Paris. For most athletes, these Olympics represent more than just a fight for medals.
I want the war in Ukraine to end and everyone to know we are a strong nation. I hope we'll succeed.
20-year-old Aider Abduraimov has been preparing for the first Olympic Games of his career in Kyiv, while Russia has been occupying his hometown of Melitopol. Ukrainians and Russians will not meet in the ring in Paris, as boxers from Russia are not allowed to compete in the Olympic Games. As a result, Aider has plenty of motivation to win.
It's hard for the country right now. There's no electricity, people are struggling, and there's very little positivity. If we win many Olympic medals, I think it will be uplifting for our fighters, our friends, and the whole country.
A year before the opening of the Olympic Games, Ukraine threatened to boycott the Paris Games if Russians took part. As a result, 32 athletes from Russia and Belarus are going to compete under a neutral flag.
Ukraine demanded that the International Olympic Committee set up a special commission to screen athletes eligible for the Olympic Games. We must acknowledge that this commission has worked much more efficiently than many sports federations. The commission's performance is impressive when we talk about athletes. At the last Olympics, there were 300 to 400 of them. That's a very big difference.
Ukrainian athletes will not greet competitors from Russia and Belarus, even if they are competing under neutral flags. The National Olympic Committee of Ukraine has coordinated this stance with the international federations. According to the president of the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine, this measure was taken to avoid provocation.
We've developed very straightforward recommendations in collaboration with the ministry. We don't communicate with their teams. We don't pay attention to them. We ensure there are no provocations. We don't take joint photos, and we avoid talking to them. In other words, we ignore them to prevent potential provocations, because the safety of our athletes is important to us.
Ukrainian athletes have already faced provocations. Olga Harlan, a Ukrainian saber fencer and Olympic champion, was disqualified at the World Championships after she had refused to shake hands with her Russian rival Anna Smirnova following a match. Smirnova is supporting the war against Ukraine, and her brother is serving in the Russian army. Despite this, the International Olympic Committee disregarded the decision of the International Fencing Federation and allowed Ukrainians to qualify for the Paris Olympics. In contrast, international tennis federations did not suspend any players from Russia or Belarus. There have been numerous instances where representatives from these countries defiantly approached Ukrainian athletes to shake hands, despite their principled stance. There have also been some troubling incidents related to this issue. A month ago, Ukrainian fencer Olyena Krivitska refused to shake hands with Georgian fencer Maria Guchmazova because Guchmazova was born in Russia. Ironically, Krivitska herself was also born in Russia. In Paris, there also have been reactions to athletes competing under a neutral flag. Just a week before the opening of the international competitions, several hundred people took to the streets wearing T-shirts with the names of Ukrainian athletes who have been killed in the ongoing full-scale war.
We organized a memorial march for hundreds of Ukrainian athletes who unfortunately won't be able to attend the Olympic Games in Paris because they were killed by Russia. Some of them had brilliant sporting careers, and some had won medals. These athletes cannot be in Paris today, so we're marching in T-shirts with their names.
According to the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine, during Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, 456 athletes have been killed, and more than 500 sports facilities have been destroyed.
That's all for today. Thank you for watching Eastern Europe Review. We will be back next week with our news stories. I'm Alexandra Shapalina. Keep watching TVP World and see you next time.